Let's look at orchestration and resource management. So now we've generated a catalog. So we know what data we have across all our various sources. We've generated an ETL job that we've tested, and we've done unit tests around, and pushed it through a pipeline against sample data. We have some confidence in it. So now I'm ready to do a pipeline run. So here what we're looking for is composing jobs together in a pipeline. And so what you're looking for is I ran this job, this other job is dependent on it, this third job is dependent on the first job, this fourth job is dependent on job 2 and job 3 completing successfully. If job 3 doesn't complete successfully, I want to run job 5, all that stuff, right? There are also different ways to trigger baseline, so I just talked about dependencies and having the system automatically develop that once you define the basic step-to-step inference, right? And that's just about you define the prior dependency and we'll generate the overall dependency graph as long as it's directed and acyclic, right? You can do schedules here, time of day. You can do event-based. You can do external sources, and that I think all gives you a fair bit of flexibility. I'm sure this will advance over time as we have requirements from our customers. Dynamic orchestration is an area that's interesting. One part of that is simply dealing with faults and retries. Another part of it is dealing with data pressure to say like, oh, today's job is bigger than yesterday's job by a lot, so I want to run it on a wider cluster. And one of the ways that you do that is you have to actually start reading the data in order to figure out it's larger or smaller and scaling things. So that's one of the things that might be dynamic. Another thing that might be dynamic is to say, oh, when this condition happens, I actually want this other job to run, right? That I normally don't want to have happen as part of my normal thing. And so that gives you, again, a lot of flexibility. This also is serverless, so there's a warm pool of instances. You don't provision them, you don't configure them, you don't manage them. You deal with jobs, and we deal with infrastructure. We'll basically take our warm pool, create ENIs and attach them to your VPC, and it will give you enough nodes to handle your SLA and cost objectives. And again, you pay for the resources when you're consuming them, not otherwise. And that just makes sense, particularly for ETL, which generally, for most people, isn't an always-on type of process. Monitoring metrics, notifications. So, this is, again, sort of bread and butter stuff. You want to track your pipelines. You want to track your job history. You want to see how things change over time. You want to see when runs failed or succeeded. And the graphs at the top show you all of those points. The red dots are the ones that are failures. And so you can go and quickly target it on failures, rubber band in, and use that as a selector for the list, and then go and figure out what's going on here. So in this particular case, there's an alert saying that, hey, this job took a lot longer than other cases. There might be things about like, oh, there's like 95% error rate on this thing. I'd probably need to go look at that because something went bad. Now, there's a lot of stuff in here that, again, is just bread and butter. A lot of people provide it. It's just necessary stuff for anyone to do.